everyone, my name is Vlad and welcome to my channel. Today I'm very excited to bring you a very special post-holiday episode. Lego has been a part of my life for a very long time as a child, as a teen, and only recently during COVID that I returned to my passion with Lego, and it's become once again an important aspect of my life. Having said that, I'm going to take you on a journey and give you an idea what Lego was like when I was growing up. Lego was very different back then, but it shared a lot of the same aspects as it is today. I also have something I built that was very cool and epic to show you later in the episode, so stay tuned. So why don't we begin right now? To start at the beginning, our journey takes us back to the early 70s. It was a time of family trips and elaborate muscle cars, high-tech electronics with futuristic-looking record players, wild and colorful fashion clothing, and funky furniture. The 70s was a golden age for toys, as there was a huge amount to select from and competition was fierce. My parents brought me many, and I had a big fascination for toy trains. And then there was this toy kids were obsessed with called Lego, and I was no different. My love of Lego started when I got a set for Christmas from my parents in around the beginning of the 70s, when I was between 4 to 6 years old. I was born in Prague of the Czech Republic, and we immigrated to Canada in 1968, so before then I didn't even know Lego existed, but still was fascinated by trains. And with my imagination and love of trains, it became my favorite toy. I spent countless hours of my childhood building many creations. Before I continue, so what was Lego like in the 70s and how did it differ to what we have today? Well, first of all, there was no internet back then. You had to go to the store to buy your Lego, and then you got ideas from various catalogs and publications that were available. One such publication was the Lego's Junior Design Club newsletter, a Canadian program run by Lego. It challenged members to design unique builds based on topics in the form of challenges and contests. The newsletter featured all articles written in both English and French, making it truly Canadian. I became a member in 1971 and still have my official membership card to show. In 1973, Volume 5, Number 3 had the most inspirational effect on me, as it featured a Build a Rocket contest that got over 400 entries from members who sent in pictures of their builds. I especially loved the young Lego contest winner who built a rocket with the words Canada on the side. So I built my own version. Secondly, there was not that many pieces and colors as it is today. And mostly there were bricks and plates, and a lot less specific pieces which made it truly like building with bricks and plates. There were sets, but they were much smaller and much simpler, so building was more left up to the imagination. Nevertheless, trains were a big part, and there was a lot of catalogs based on trains, which had a lot of ideas for building trains, rail cars, buildings, and huge track layouts. One such catalog had a Western-themed train scene, but what I dreamed of building was inspired by this image in a catalog that featured a complete train layout with trains, rail cars, and buildings. If I only had that much Lego in those days as I have now. And then there were two things that I considered game changers from Lego back then. First, the 4.5 volt motor and battery box. This came out around 1966 from Lego and featured a big battery box that held 3 C-size batteries and could be attached directly to the motor in 2 places or connected via a cable. Yes, it was big, heavy, and bulky, but I had to have one or more. It made my trains, vehicles, and equipment, etc. come to life. Second was the release in 1970 of the first Lego working universal gears using the cross axle. Although the gears had spokes rather than actual gear teeth, It opened up a whole new design aspect to Lego. In the booklet that came with my first gear set that my parents bought me, it showed instructions on how to build a bunch of mechanisms, including a hand-operated windmill, and combined with the 4.5 volt motor and battery box, a helicopter with spinning rotor, and a working crane. I used the gears a lot in my later designs. And now I'm going to show you some of my own creations I made with Lego. I never really got into building kits until after COVID, a few years back. And during my childhood, I relied on my imagination and I made a lot of MOCs. Next to Lego, I'm a huge fan of science fiction TV series and movies, and that greatly influenced my builds back then. Here are a few of my builds I did that were influenced by science fiction TV series and movies. Here, a young me is holding the CV sub I built based on the TV series Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. The colors I use the most are red and white, as those are the most common Lego colors at that time. It also came complete with the flying sub housed underneath in the front of the sub. Next is my depiction of Moonbase Alpha from the TV series Space 1999, complete with launch pads and mini Lego Eagle ships. I'm a really huge fan of that show. I also made the Hyperion airship from the movie The Island at the Top of the World, which used the 4.5 volt motor and battery pack to power the propellers. And finally, the titanium ore mining outpost set on a faraway moon in the movie Outland. I made a lot of others as well, but those are the only ones that I have pictures of from back then. And finally, here are some of my original builds. First up is my version of an ocean liner. It was approximately the length of the current Lego Titanic set, but closer to the scale of a minifig. Next up is another ship, but this time it's based on a World War II United States aircraft carrier, complete with aircrafts on its deck. A closer look at its deck shows a 2-engine bomber. This was inspired by the B-52 Mitchell bombers that were launched from an aircraft carrier for the surprise raid on Tokyo, Japan in World War II. The next 4 original creations are based on my love of science fiction. Here is one of my early original creations of a futuristic base with an assortment of spaceships. I was around 7 to 8 years old when I built this. And a futuristic city. Notice I had 2 4.5 volt Lego motors, one blue and one in black. And finally, here are 2 futuristic land vehicles. I used to make quite a few of those types of creations that I used to play with for hours. At the beginning of this video, I mentioned that I built something cool and epic as a teen with Lego. And well, here it is. A huge functioning roller coaster built into my bedroom shelving. So you may ask, how was this done? Well, I will show you. So here are the parts that I need to do this demonstration with. It is basically based off my original Lego. The tracks are blue, as seen before. And I have some plates. These are from, like I said, from the 70s. So it shows how enduring Lego really is. So normally what you do, you take one inside track when you were making train tracks. You take an outside track, and that's your tracks. And then you just continuing like this if you make curves. And that would be your normal railway track. However, if I take two 2x10s, I take 2 4x10s, and instead of putting the tracks this way, like normally, what happens if I flip it this way? Like this, and put this one on the outside, like this. That also works, and now the tracks are vertical, so I think you start to get the idea where this is going. So now you have vertical tracks which form a curve, and that curve is basically how a roller coaster works, the curved tracks. So if you put it on the side, you stick it on. That's the trick to making a roller coaster in the old days. Now, as much as I used this concept, it was actually the idea of my childhood friend Donald who came up with the idea. I just ran with it. My first roller coaster I built was the one I just shown. The track supports were mounted on my bedroom shelving. It was huge and took up the entire length of my room. I could not fit the entire coaster into one photo, so I used 3 photos taped together to show the whole thing. A bit blurry, but it's the only photo I have of it. I also lit it up by using a string of Christmas lights underneath the tracks mounted to each support column, which you can see in the photos. I also then made a second one with a vertical drop and a half loop. And that pretty much concludes my childhood journey through Lego. I'd like to thank my parents for giving me my first box of Lego for Christmas and getting me on this journey, especially my father, who was there to support me in my builds and also helped me when I was much younger. And also I'd like to thank him for getting me back into Lego indirectly when he passed away. Thanks, Dad. Back then I had a whole box. I ended up with a big box of Lego. I thought I had a lot. Well, now I have way more than that. If you enjoyed this journey of mine, then please give me a thumbs up and leave me some feedback. I love reading feedback and I love answering it as well. And until next time, have a great day.